Hello and welcome to another AFK Combos. The time we talked about our feelings regarding the Crucible. Oh my gosh, I am a super bad host. I was busy this morning, and I know the 12 was a little light this week, and you said as much too. But we're basically going to go over Bungie's little release on their weekly release of 12 things, which is involving the Ghost and stuff like that. And then we're dive into to the Crucible shenanigans.
Hey man, it's the salt mine.
The salt spec.
Well, since I did the homework on the swab, do you mind if I talk about it?
No, please. I'm literally bringing it up right now.
So. Okay. So, some of you may have seen this, some of you may not have seen this, but this week in the TWAB is very, very light, but it talked about the changes coming to our ghosts in with Beyond Light, and so it's pretty cool. They're actually getting an update a lot like Armor 2.0. So the ghosts are going to have energy levels, and they'll have access to mods which will cost energy, and then so instead of the ghosts coming with the preloaded perks, they'll now, like, you'll have a pool to choose from. So all of the shells are getting this treatment except for the generalist shell. They like specifically mention that for some
calling
reason.
you out,
Not sure
bub.
why.
Real quick, isn't the generalist shell like the very first basic intro shell that you get?
Yeah, it is. It's like the green one, I think. So I think that's so that like new light players right out the gate aren't like, what is this? Like,
yeah, super inundated with like a whole other system and whatnot.
But it's really cool. So every shell besides the general shell, regardless of tier, you'll be able to use. And so it's not going to matter if an exotic, legendary, whatever, they're not going to really have any difference anymore because they'll all be able to have the same amount of points on them and have the same mods available, except for some cases, which we will go over in a little bit here. So by default, there's going to be a selection of mods that will be there for all the shells. And then there's going to be some that you can obtain by doing different gameplay things.
I'm into it.
And so it said that you'll actually be able to look in collections and see where you go to find specific mods, which I think is nice because, like, I don't like having to go to Google or something to be like, where do I find this mod? I would much rather be like, let me open my game menu and find out where to get this.
So it's sort of like, because I don't know if shaders do this. Or Armor does it. I don't know if you can like cursor over, and if you haven't discovered it, it tells you where to get it. Because I know in D1 that was a thing.
I know, like, in collections for Armor, I think it'll say for some stuff, but like sometimes it's not very specific. It'll just be like world drop or like whatever, you know. Yeah. So it's like, okay, what world? Like where?
Right. Like, so, what is this? Yeah.
I like specificity, so like I would like to know, like, literally go whatever. I like it to be very specific, and
you're fine
I would like it if like it said literally like go do patrols on the moon, like, to find this armor or something, you know, which I think like by default you can kind of look at the icon that armor sets are from and like deduct like, okay, I probably should go to Tangled Shore to get Forsaken armor.
This looks like, moonish.
Makes sense, but I would still like to be told like where I can get things. Anyways, moving on from that. Let's see. The mods, which this is so wonderful, they're going to be able to be obtained by doing actual gameplay stuff. Eververse is not going to sell these, so thank God this is not going to be stuck behind Eververse BS. So yay, Tessa's losing her job maybe. The ghosts are going to have 4 mod slots total. By default, you have access to 3, and if you masterwork a shell, then it bumps it up to having access to 4. So that's pretty cool. And they're pretty much doing this because, like, I'm sure we all have shells like sitting in our vault that are just like really cool looking shells, but they just have the worst perks on them, like Titan treasure collector and like drive faster on your sparrow, and it's like, what?
Mercury resource finder.
Not helpful. Helpful.
Enough, thank you.
And so this is going to make it so that really you can choose any ghost that you have, and put whatever mods you want on it and make it really cool. And the thing that's nice about this is that
Mhm.
once you open a mod on your account, it's available across like your entire account. So like if you
So
find
as the
something,
mods
yeah,
work now.
yeah. So you find it with your hunter, you'll also have it available for your titan and your warlock. So it's pretty cool. You don't have to like rehunt for things 3 times. So that's nice. So the way that the slots are going to work,
Hmm.
each slot is actually like a category slot. So one is an experience mod slot, one is a tracking mod slot, one is an economic mod slot, and then the final slot that is opened when you masterwork is the activity mod slot. So you can mix and match the mods within the categories however you want, but they'll cost energy points, and so there's a limit to how you can actually set up your mods, you know?
Much like the armor that we have
Yeah,
now. Once
yeah.
again, like it's
You'll have
very
to pick and choose.
carbon
So,
copy.
they gave like an example of like a mod setup for someone who might be like grinding Crucible to get materials and like XP for their seasonal reward track.
Hmm.
And they gave the example of like they could have like guiding light, they could have meager glimmer boost, and then they could have lesser core harvest specifically for the Crucible that
Hmm.
would be available. So all I can, so just by the naming convention of that, you know, meager glimmer booster, I imagine there's probably different levels of like glimmer boosters that you can unlock, as well as the like lesser core harvest. Like, you know, if the fact that they're putting like a modifier of like lesser, meager, whatever, makes
Hmm.
me think like there will be more powerful ones available. So, I think it could make like grinding for stuff a lot better than it
Well, you
currently
can
is.
shape it the way you want a lot,
Hmm.
like you say.
Well, and you get rewards for doing the activities that you enjoy doing, which I
Yeah.
think, you know, is
Which
needed in the game.
it really feels like that's what they're trending towards, honestly, with the way that
Hmm.
the new like pinnacle or pursuit weapons. I can't honestly
Exactly.
remember the
Well,
language they're using for that, but that's how that feels.
I
So
think they're giving players the ability to like play within their comfort zone and also their time like constraints
yeah.
and do the activities that suit them and still have access to the same rewards because like, you know, it's hard when like especially like in the time of the Crucible when we were playing against like Luna Howl and like Not Forgotten,
A
and it was like every
mountaintop
other
and
person
yeah.
had those, and it was like because they did like the super Crucible stuff and got it, and it, you know, it just feels bad to like feel like, "Oh, I don't have access to that stuff because
Mhm.
like that's just outside of my like skill scope." And I understand it
Wheelhouse.
was
Yeah.
like a pinnacle weapon and like that's why, but like at the same time it kind of like makes the game even more lopsided than it already is because you're giving the
Right.
best players more power,
A
which they're the
strong
ones don't
weapon.
need it. Like it's the weak
Yeah.
players that need more power. So
And
like,
I think that's been like an interesting learning curve for Bungie
mhm.
in further shaping how they manage and develop this game that
Well,
we love so much.
exactly, and I think if anything, this is just, like, further proof of, like, hey, they do see the, like, errors, and they do see the
Hmm.
changes that need to be made, and they are taking steps to do it, you know? They're
Right.
not just, like, taking stuff in stride of, like, "Oh,
I
too
was
bad,
just
just get good, like,
twiddling
whatever.
their thumbs and being
Play the
like,
game
whatever,
more,
figure it
and then
out.
you'll
Yeah.
you'll get stuff." Like, they're
Yeah.
actually I truly feel like they're trying to balance the experience for all types of players, and, like, you know, that's all you can ask for in a game because like none of us are gonna have the same experience, and I
Yeah.
don't feel like it should be, you know, just like I don't know, only certain people should have access to whatever. I just don't like that. It's kind of like an elitist type like
It's exclusionary.
thing.
It's
Yeah.
exclusionary, yeah.
So.
Well, and like you're saying, I feel like they really are at this point. Like, I feel like criticism and feedback has been heard throughout the what now three almost in going into this is Buckwild the fourth year of Destiny 2.
It's
It's
so
insane
crazy.
to me. It's actually insane to
It's
me.
so crazy.
But
No, it's literally
um,
insane.
they they're trending towards that. They're trending towards like a more like come to the table and experience it the way you want to kind of, and like I feel like that's always what they wanted with the way that their design philosophy even from the get-go is like, hey, you find a super cool gun in a strike, go bring it to the Crucible. And like you love how this like shotgun feels in the Crucible, bring it to the raid, why not? Like that's kind of just like laissez-faire as you will, just kind of like play the game. And I think this is a cool furtherance of that philosophy. And like in what we've heard about what they're bringing with online, I feel like this is just like another step, another notch, another tick towards that like general goal of like just bring yourself to the game and like shape it the way you want to. Like it's bringing more player agency to this like whole experience that they have, and like I think that's on brand and very good.
I think it's also kind of showing that I think they're being thinking more long-term big picture about things
Hmm.
than just like, fixes for a season or whatever, because like I
Yeah.
can't imagine that it's any fun for the developers to have to constantly be going back to tweak things they've already put time in to do, to
Yeah.
try to keep it balanced. And like I think doing all the changes that they're doing is kind of like setting it up so that it's going to be better for everybody,
Yeah.
because like
Mhm.
it's just going to be more aligned and balanced, and I'm just excited to see how it pans out. But I need to finish talking about this ghost stuff before we really get
Well, I
into
know.
Crucible.
And well, real quick though, I noticed like so if you look at the this week at Bungie that they posted the 12,
Hmm.
or what, September 17th was yesterday. Um, yeah, something that's interesting to me. Two notes. So the first slot you said is like an experience slot, right?
The first
Yeah,
one is, yes,
experience
experience,
in the let's see, experience. Oh my god, what did
tracking,
I say?
economic
Yes,
activity.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So what's interesting to me, and I don't know if this is just like a placeholder screenshot of this is how the ghosts are gonna go. Guess we'll know later. But this, like, it says at the bottom there, in that kind of like orangey red text on the screenshots for the TWAB. And it's very hyper specific. I'm sorry for audio listeners right now, but it says this mod is fragile and will expire at the end of season 15. It's like, does that mean all ghost mods will be seasonal mods? We'll get like a whole new host of like new ghost mods like I don't know
I
what that
don't
means
I
or what
don't
that is.
I think that it means the ones that you probably get from in-game activities, I would say probably are going to be seasonal, but I think like the default ones that we've like always
Hmm.
kind of had are going to be the ones that are always available.
Interesting. I wonder if that then
That's just my
that
guess. I don't
that
know if that's
no, and to push that thought a step further, I think it's interesting because it could very well be like you don't have the same destinations from season to season either, right? Like if those change,
well,
like maybe that's why.
they're doing away with the destination specific, which I need to talk about, but like I
Okay,
I think
sorry.
it's probably a lot like the armor mods are, where it's like, oh, you have a mod that like you can pick up the orbs from like what was it that they had during the Saint 14 season or whatever, like the Seraph weapons or
That was the next season, but yeah, all the same.
well,
Where it's like you
whatever,
had
the
the
bunker
Destructo
season, like yeah,
Warmind
so like you
orbs.
had all those mods that like went with that,
Mm-hmm.
and then this season like we have mods that go with whatever the drifter thing is, and like
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how
It's
well
just
they'll be on the ghost too. It'll probably be like get extra like seasonal currency, or get like extra XP for doing like
right.
this activity that's for this season, is what I imagine is going to be that kind of stuff. So um but let me explain this part real quick. It says the
This was just a question that came up for me. Sorry, as I was looking at
yeah. The old
them.
ghost perks are being brought forward, mostly unchanged. They're by default unlocked for us.
Hmm.
Um, but they're going to change the destination specific material or the treasure hunter like
Hmm.
mods. They're going to be changed into globally effective non-destination specific versions of themselves, which
Just
is
universal. Yeah.
so nice, because like it's so annoying to be like, where's my ghost for the tangled shore, where's my ghost for the moon, where's my, like it gets old. I'm sorry. I just like
Right.
it doesn't matter
I
that much to me to actually go change my ghost out,
no,
but
I can't be bothered either.
the fact that it's going to be like a blanket thing now is really great.
Hmm.
But it does say here, it's like energy costs for this mod will like now reflect the increased flexibility, and the mods must be earned from various vendor
Hmm.
engrams. So that makes me think, it's not going to be just necessarily like doing like go do a strike and like have a chance at this mod drop. I think it's like
Hmm.
when it's saying vendor engrams, to me that means they'll be like material based. So like, you can go like purchase it from like Banshee or from like,
Oh, true.
whoever else. So
My brain also thinks like as you rank up with someone too, like that's a way to possibly get stuff too. Because like when you turn in packages to Saladin, right? That's how you get a lot now. Currently, as it stands, that's how you get a lot of the enhanced perks is through
Well,
that.
yeah,
It's a
that's
very
the
good
same
source.
thing. He's a
Yeah,
vendor, right? He's a vendor
but
in Grim. So it'd be like him, Shax, Zavala,
right.
Iron Banner. But yeah, they probably have like specific ones within their loot pool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then it says the kill track and the Leviathan boss kill perks will remain intrinsic only to the specific ghost shells that have those.
Right.
So even though they're changing things and they're taking out Leviathan and stuff, you'll still be able to have that ghost and
That
show
stat's
like
still
your
staying with those
feats.
ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's only available on that ghost.
which is
So
cool. I think that's good.
yeah. Yeah. So even with all the changes, we're still gonna be able to pretty much like make non-exotic ghosts into the sweet exotic ghosts that have like guiding light and treasure hunter on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then like we're also gonna get a bunch of new mods to go with that. So it's
I'm
really
excited
gonna
about that.
be cool because I just feel like I have so many ghosts that I've been like, oh, this ghost looks so cool, I don't want to delete it, but it's just
Yeah.
like I put it in my vault and it just sits there forever. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I know like at some times like people would just like go and pull like a ghost from collections over and over and over to try to get like a new roll on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But it's like such a waste of
It's a huge burn,
resources.
especially back when it used like a lot of
Bright
bright dust
dust and
too.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And it's like the pool that it chooses from for like the random rolls on ghosts is so
it's
huge.
butts. It's
Like
butts. It's yeah.
it's
It's too
to try
much.
to get a like decent roll, like oh my gosh, this is
It's terrible.
insane. So
I
um
it's funny that you're mentioning this too, because like to roll back just a little bit too, but the way that the perk value is working too, the way I see it is like you have specifically say like fusion rifle scavenger, right? That's a 3 point cost mod, but if you put on special ammo scavenger, that's a 5 point cost mod.
mhm,
So I
mhm.
think that's how I'm reading that to work,
Yeah.
right? If I'm not
I
mistaken.
think the more inclusive it is, the more it's going to cost you.
Which is, I
I
mean,
think that
yeah,
if it's specific, it's going to be cheaper.
yeah.
But that's the game, that's the numbers game now that we have within
Hmm.
the game, which is like pretty much the main RPG element like happening for us in the game is we're having more control over these numbers and they're actually doing
Right.
something and our choices matter. And so
It's the cost of
um
agency, which like that's
yeah,
it's fine by me.
I think it's going to be worth it. It'll be interesting to see the different things that people come up with and like it's just going to be fun. It's just
Hmm.
yet another thing that you can like spend an evening being like, how do I want to make this ghost? And then like when
Right.
you start doing like another activity, oh, what new ghost can I build? And like it'll just be nice to kind of like have that at your fingertips because right now it's like you put on one ghost and you're like, ah, do I really have to switch to ghost right now? Like, oh,
Right.
this is so annoying. Let me go dig through my vault. I'm pretty sure I maybe have one that has this one perk on it somewhere.
Maybe
It's just
possibly
like
digging through
now
dim, digging through whatever
now when
app.
you have all those little ghosts that you're carrying around on your character that never change, it's going to be worth it because you're going to
Hmm.
know exactly what they are and what they do because you
Now you
made them.
can
So
swap it out and make a great fashion show out of it. So
yeah,
I'm excited for this. This is
I
like
am
a
too.
two little things. I think it's funny that they list. You have it noted here, and I don't know if this is like specifically what they gave an example of in the TWAB, but like Guiding Light and Treasure Hunter. I was gonna say like, oh, like it's funny if you have it, the Eris Morn shell that you got from Shadowkeep in like the launch of the Season of Undying. It's like her like flamey ghost buddy looking
Mhm.
shell. It's
Mhm.
one of the best ghosts because it has both treasure hunters, so you can like see. You basically have like the Night Stalker treasure finder perk on like, steroids. Plus, you have Guiding Light, which like if you're still hunting for like season ranks and all that, like it does honestly end up paying off dividends in the end if you like kept it on because you get like what I think it's like a 10% plus bonus to like all experience that you get. So like all the bounties, all the strikes, the crucible matches, all that further. So it's like makes it one of the strongest ghosts that you can have. And it's funny that like
Mhm.
they list specifically those two perks. Like, hey, we understand that these are good like perks that made this thing exotic. You're gonna be able to have this and more. So I think it's just, and to lead in my second point, like I think this is a very it's like a very subtle sort of like dark horse quality of life thing that's gonna improve. I think like in a weird small way, but like in a significant enough way, much like Guiding Light does, like your experience of the game. So
Mhm. Well, I think it's funny because, like, if you really think about it, like, every time you are in, like, a public destination where you see, like, people pull out their ghosts, I
Yeah.
mean, like, 9 time out of 10, they have that Eris Morn, like, ghost because
Mm-hmm.
it's so good. Like, why would you not use it? There's,
And you got
it's
it for like the
for
costs of
pre-ordering.
playing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And, like, it is a good ghost, but like me, I was just like, look, I put that on like when I first got it, but I felt so guilty neglecting my cat ghost that I like soon was
Mm-hmm.
just like, I can't do this anymore. Like I miss hearing my little meow when I like respawn and stuff. And like
Mm-hmm.
I just like so I don't know. I'm just glad they're changing it so that I'm not gonna be like missing out because I'm choosing a different like cosmetic than someone else, you know? So
Absolutely. Yeah. No. So good changes. Do
mhm.
you feel ready to be mad?
Yeah, by watching this video,
I
you're
know.
already mad, so
I watched my ceiling tether happen,
oh
and
yeah, it's a rough day.
I'm immediately just sad about it. I'm just so sad about it. So.
Um, guys, I'm so excited for this part. As I was typing this out to
Mhm.
make a nice little outline for us to talk about, I felt my feelings come out so many times, so many times, and they were so strong.
Mhm.
Oh boy, do you want to start?
Yeah. So, and I think it's funny because it's going to be a good lead into hopefully the expected like sandbox discussion that they're going to bring to us in
Mhm.
October. But we're now going to break down sort of our general vibe and feelings of Crucible. What you've been seeing in the background is a lovely display of just like a general night that we have of Crucible times. Um, and we're going to do our best to sort of break it down into more granular topics for us to talk about than like, oh man, this is just bullshit. Because like, yeah, that's a fair feeling, and it's a thing we vibe on,
Like that just
honestly.
happened as you spawned and got golden gun in the
Yeah,
face. That's
yeah.
great. Yeah.
So that's why I was chuckling. So, but anyways, yeah. So the Crucible, it's a place you go to go fight the mans and test your skills. Honestly, the Crucible can be like a whole load of fun. It can also be the most garbage experience you can ever have in a game. And like it's so weird to have these swings from it, and I think both of us can agree on this point. It comes from a lack of evolution of the sandbox, you know? And like, look, like it's a tricky thing to like, especially in the times that we find ourselves like to full swing balance change that like I understand that there's a lot that goes on into like making this experience in of itself happen, but like there's a lot that still needs to be changed. There's like a weird sort of like almost like wouldn't say false bill of goods, but like it's just tough with this game because like there was a promise from the onset of D2 launching where it's like we've tuned up the engines to like say a specific weapon is very strong and like I don't know this like shotgun archetype. We can tune specifically that shotgun and not have to worry about like downgrading the entire weapons category. And like what's funny is they've still kind of like swung the general pendulum of balance like very hard in a lot of different ways very often, and
Hmm.
so it can, because we're so inundated and like just in it in the experience of it all, it's hard to like sometimes separate and bring a critical eye, but like that's something we try to be more cognizant of, especially in like talking about this where it's like here's things that are good, here are things you're worried of, and like but this is also the general feel you get now because of this game. Because of like the
Yeah.
way it stands with the sandbox, because of the way that like they have updated it, the like I will say frequency as a measurement and not so much as a adverb, but like the frequency in which they do like update the game, right? Is a factor in it too, as far as like the PvP sandbox goes. So, anyways, I think that's the general lead in to everything that we're gonna dive into here. But
I just want to say too, I think that it's important for like everyone that plays Destiny and like partakes in Crucible to like stop and use a critical eye sometimes because it is very easy to get lost in
mhm.
just the bitterness of the salt and like just how unfair situations feel. And there's so many things that lead into that experience, and it has nothing to do with your skill level, which has been like my kind of like learning curve I've had to like accept. It's not that I'm a bad player, it's just that like bullshit happens and like, I'm only planning for like an encounter with like one man who's in front of me, not like the four behind me. So
Right, and the team meeting that's about to happen in 3 seconds once you fight that one.
so just because of like how the Crucible is set up and stuff, like it lends a lot. So we're gonna go over some of those things that are like out of
A
our
bunch of
control
points.
that
Yeah.
isn't about, hey, just get better at aiming forehead. That's not like what our gripes are about.
That's
It's about like
that's a
actual problems within
like
the
that's
game.
totally a thing you can like work on. That's within your onus of abilities to like amend and improve. Like you can go and like fight your friends in private matches. Like you can
I
go and play
improved.
comp. You
I
can
used
go
to
and
not
play
be able to
rumble.
kill anybody. I
Hmm.
couldn't even play Crucible with you in corners because it was so painful. I got
Hmm.
maybe 1 or 2 kills. Now I get maybe 10. But that's better than 2.
It's a 500% increase, one would say. So
Well, let's start at the top here, which like that was a great example right when we started paying attention to this
yeah,
video here. But the
cue the
map
keep
spawns,
in mind the golden
oh
gun scene. That's what I believe you
yeah,
were
the
referencing.
map spawns for like the majority of maps, especially if you're playing the game type of control, are horrendous because it
Yeah.
is like so easy to spawn trap other teams and like it doesn't feel good to do it to people and it doesn't feel good for it to happen to you.
Yeah.
Like you feel guilty or mad either way. So it's
I've
like
I will fully admit I've full blown snipe people right off a spawn. Right, like oh they spawn in, their O shield's there. I wait 2 seconds for a dip, and then the face is
you're a
gone because
horrible
I'm like,
person.
like you're there, I'm supposed to
The
fight you.
only the only time I partake in spawn killing is when the team has severely wronged me already, and then I'm like out for vengeance, and I'm like, you know
I
what?
mean, to be fair, they are our
I'll do
enemy
this.
team, so like they have
That's
wronged
true,
us from the
but like
onset.
when we're ready to mercy them, do you think it's fair to be spawn trapping them?
No, I usually
Dirty.
I let off the gas a little bit at that point. But the point being, to what you said, it's so easy if you know how the map spacing works. If you know the general points that you're taught in control about A, B, and C, you can hold two spaces, keep that line, kill mans, and then immediately push into that like third vacant space, and that's where they're gonna spawn, and that's where you can just start farming. And like
Mm-hmm.
very strong, skilled PvP players will do this. Like when
Even
well,
unskilled, because
even
it's like
unskilled
6
too.
people, they start following the dude who's getting the most kills, and it's just a circle of murder.
The herd mentality is hard to step away from in
Yeah.
this. But to that point though, like whenever we drop the word like 6 stack, 4 stack, and all that stuff, upstairs neighbors. Oh my goodness. They those are the people that like when I truly mean that, like a 6 stack is like, you know, 3 point something KDA, like every single one of them flawless, the 89 bajillion times, like those
And
people
they're
that you
all in a
fight.
party together
Mm-hmm.
communicating. It's not
Right.
just like
Got that
randoms.
one word name clan tag, like
Yeah, they've got comms, they're competent players. That's when
scary
you know
people.
the
That's
day is
that's when you know.
sad.
And like that's when you face the people who know how to like force the map mechanics in their favor to like spawn trap you, do what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so
It's frustrating.
what's interesting, and like we've covered this a little bit too, but Bungie's released a lot of the maps that are being vaulted. And a lot of those maps are the ones that are maybe the worst offenders at like being able to force spawns and spawn trap people. I think in particular one like I think it's being vaulted, but Dead Cliffs I think is maybe one of the worst, absolute worst offenders of spawn
Oh
trapping.
yeah.
I think
Yeah, it's really bad.
the Mars map too, where it's just like at the top of the Bray Tower, where B's like in the inside clustered room.
No, we don't talk about that map. We don't have to play it anymore because we don't play.
I know, but like both those maps in particular, are like
It's
very,
horrible.
very strong to like force spawns to be
Mm-hmm.
this. Um, and
So
it's
those
it just creates a rough experience because there's nothing. It's out of your control. Like you can't
you
be like, let me
spawn
spawn somewhere else. It
like
literally
you just spawn
forces
to
you.
death, and so you're just like spawning constantly, and like for someone who is like a like mid-range player or even like a beginner player and you're just trying to get
Hmm.
your bearings, like just being killed immediately when you spawn, like it's so defeating. It's
It
like, why
is.
am I playing this game mode? I must not belong here, and like it's not your fault. It has nothing to do with your skill. Like you don't you can't even load in fast enough to react. Like there's nothing you can do, so it's like not even on you. So, um, but I think moving on from the horrible map spawns, which I feel like they're trying to address. I mean, they've been like rotating out the maps every season and trying to work on things. I think they're trying to do it, but I think it just like kind of always comes back to the fact that most of these maps were made for 4 players, not
Right,
6, and
right.
they're just too crowded. And like I
No,
don't know what the answer is to that, whether it's like these older maps need to go back to being just 4-player maps, or comp
nope,
only,
nope.
or if they just need to keep tweaking. I don't know. I just feel like
uh,
genuinely there's not enough space on these maps because like when we played Javelin for trials, like it feels really good. It feels like super doable. It feels like I
yeah,
know like where to be and what angles to watch and whatever. But it's
yeah.
like playing against 6 people is total chaos. And plus you're like getting bumped by your teammates like who are trying to look down the same lane as you. Like I murder you every 5 seconds when we're playing like in this
Mm-mm.
mode because I just shove you when you're sniping. Like it's horrible. There's just so many people.
That's a little bit of hyperbole there. Um, no, and that's the point I think I'm wanted to is like what we're struggling with here is like a mismatch of map design and like game mode, like
Hmm.
playability and stuff, and like that's kind of the difficult. That I think they're like you said are trying to address of like vaulting these. Like what's funny if you look at the list of what's staying and what's being vaulted, it's like almost all the D2 original maps are like going bye bye for now, and like the solid maps that like we've had and been able to play with, that, like have stood the test. They're the ones keeping. And like what is so funny to me is the D1 maps that they've imported um are the ones that are like the strongest, and the ones like without question they're like, oh yeah, Distant Shore staying, like Pantheon fine. um what's another, Rustlands, like all these maps that they brought in are keeping around. And like that's just,
Hmm.
it's just a funny thing to me where it's like the design they had for D1 was 6v6, and those maps still, even when being translated to the new engine, the new game being updated, still play the best. So
Yeah,
it's just
and
funny
it
to me
has to
that
do with the
like
spacing. It's just we
so
need the bigger maps. So
it's just really funny
um,
to me.
it is, and I'm excited to continue to get a drip feed of like the D1 maps because it seems like they're trying to just bring everything forward at this point. So
Right.
that will be good. But let's complain about weapon metas for a minute because it is a persistent problem in this game, which I'm sure it is in every like first person shooter. I don't play a lot of other FPSs, so
It's in
like
any competitive like game, I think, has, it runs into an issue like this.
mhm.
um and so um
It's so crappy to be playing right now with like the auto rifle meta and like I know we've talked about it like when we did our
yeah,
like trials cast. Like we
yeah,
don't
we'll
need to
touch
like
on it,
stay
we've
on
touched
this
on
real
it,
long,
yeah,
but
no, no.
like it's just a persistent problem and I don't know like what the fix is for it other than to like balance things better. We can sit here all day on this side of the screen and be like, ah, if you would just like make the range different or you would
Sure.
just like make aim assist less, like, things would be fixed and like, I don't know like what the
Hmm.
thought process is on their end, but it's
Yeah,
just like really rough out there with the metas and
I think the hardest thing about it, and like it is literally inevitable and unavoidable to have a like meta, as in like this is what you use to like have the most advantage, like the thing that's the strongest. Like there's always going to be something that's going to outperform something else. Like that's just the nature of a game like this. It really is. Like you can't. There's nothing you can do about it.
mhm.
I think my biggest complaint about it, and I sort of touched on it in my rambling to introduce all this, is just like there needs to be more frequency in their adjustment to what
Yeah.
weapons are strong and what as what place where, because
Yeah.
like you said, like,
Living in the same meta for freaking 6 months at a time
well,
is
and this
like
has been further
painful.
extended too because they've pushed back beyond, like, understandable, totally understand. I'm not saying anything like
Yeah.
that, but it's like the fact that we probably won't get an adjustment until Beyond Light, and like once again, we'll know more in October. Very excited to hear what they have to say about it, but like
Hmm.
it just makes it so tough to be like, out. Outplayed again by a summoner. Oh, look at that. Another gnawing hunger. Oh man, Soros really kicked my buns. Like it just feels so boring, so samey. It just like feels uninspired, uninventive. Like when I get killed by a bow, when someone voops me, like that isn't Bastion, like when something weird kills me, like I really take note of it. I'm like, holy shit! Like why is this person using this? Like this nerd, like I adopt this whole like stance of like get with the picture, like just to
Yeah.
sort of almost
Yeah.
like make fun of them, but like at the same time, it's like it's me sort of like tipping my hat to them because it's like good for you for saying like no, fuck you, I want to play the play. Like I don't want
Yeah.
to like I don't feel beholden to like use an auto ref to do something and like I just best you because I decided to play that way. And like I guess maybe it's a little projecting and self-serving because like I also like to try and play that way. So
Oh, well, it just feels better to feel like you're playing someone who's playing the same game as you, not just like bullet sponge, you know?
right,
So,
right.
um, but yeah,
Anyways, yeah,
let's talk about
Crucible meta weapon metas are just tough.
yeah, it's rough and they make us cry. The way that the matchmaking works right now is like super confusing to me because like they say that
Mm-hmm.
like when we're playing like this mode control and like other of the like quick play like options that it's connection based, which
Mm-hmm.
like we were talking about this last night and like we both are in the Northwest, like, you know, I'm in the Seattle area, you're in the
West
Boise
side of the
area, like
states.
yeah, it's like uh, I don't know. I guess maybe it's probable that like the people around us are the best players in Destiny ever, and that's who we're constantly playing
Yeah.
against. But like, I also find that hard to believe. You know, it just seems like every game we play is like with sweaty people, and like it's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily that we're playing with six stacks every time. It's just that we're playing with other competent players, and like you could say like, oh well, it's, you know, the auto rifle meta is like giving people like a leg up, and like yeah, that's true, but like you know a like seasoned player when you play against them and you know a fresh player when you play
Oh
against
yeah.
them because
It
it
can be
feels really
very,
good.
very distinct. It's like, Blueberry, no, go the other way. Don't look at me. Go away.
Are
Go,
you
go, go,
new
go.
light? Please
Yeah.
turn around, look behind you. But like I think that that's very unclear of how it's actually functioning. We don't know like how much our elo plays into it, which is like our
Mm-hmm.
rating, which is based on like how many games you've played, how many kills you get, like
How
how
well
many
you've done in
assists you
them.
get.
Yeah.
Like it's this huge like rating system that like we don't know how anything like is applied and used to determine where we fit into like
Right.
the matchmaking pool. And so it's kind of frustrating because like I don't really know like what to expect with different game modes, you know? And I don't know if it's
What's
just the chaos of like quick play with six people is why it feels
mhm.
so bad. Like maybe that is why like comp and stuff feels better because it's less people. I don't know, but like
Well, I
oh
think
my
that
god.
also is like much more closely matched to your skill level. And like that's the hard thing about this is like it's some matchmaking networking cocktail that Bungie has made for these game modes that like we're given vagaries of like, oh well, like we've gotten rid of skill based and we've switched to connection based mainly, which like it's still supported with like it's skill based. It's factored in there, right? But it's not the priority. It's not the like pinnacle thing that the game is looking for. It's making matches, but like at the same time, like you're seeing people in here that like are like on 10 plus streaks that we're fighting against people that like have on flawless because they have the glowy trials armor. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
these aren't slouchy Crucible players. Like these are like very up there, top tier people that we're fighting against. And like you're telling me, like once again, like that seems a little sus that like our connection is always around like some of the best players in the game. Maybe it's just like
Mhm.
I it
And like
just it
we don't
mm,
play at consistent times either. Like that's the other thing is
yeah.
like there will be times where like we'll be playing in the middle of the afternoon or like even in the morning or like late at night. And so, you know, we're constantly in the same pool of like
Mm-hmm.
tryhards and I don't understand. So I would really like to have like some kind of like
Mm-hmm.
system of like, hey, if you go here and look at what your elo is, you're gonna play with people who are like, you know, 500, like within your range of like 500 in any direction. So at
Right.
least you know like what people you're going up against, and like you can be like, okay, I don't want to play this game mode because I know I'm gonna have to try hard. I would love a Crucible game mode that really is just like relax and shoot people. Like there's no game
So
mode like
what you're
that anymore.
saying is you want for some game modes to maybe have like, I don't know, a numerical ranking system that
Yeah,
has an
yeah,
actual
yeah.
display of like where
Like
you
if
sit in the
if
player
it even
pool.
had like a sweat meter, like I would be happy with that. Which let's just like roll right into with how horrible the matchmaking is, the
Hmm.
peer-to-peer connections, because
Yeah.
that look, why don't you just please go off the rails about peer-to-peer, because I feel like you experience it so much more than I do because you are a sniper, and
Yeah.
like those split seconds count so much more for that kind of gameplay. And like
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like, look, this is my armchair like IT networking like understanding of how it works and like what my little research has led me to. And like I'm not trying to say this as like a place of authority. It's just like the experience that I've had with it. But like what is so frustrating is like this just is an archaic system. And like granted, like this is what has worked for them in the lifespan of Destiny to be able to uh, uh, network this way to have people fight. Um, and what it is, oh my gosh, Brett, I don't think that'll show. But what peer to peer essentially is there is a host player who communicates with the server, and that server then bounces back and then communicates with everyone else. And then, oh no, I'm getting that wrong. There's a host player, and they are communicating with everyone else, and all that information is like bounced off of like my Xbox talking to our enemy player's Xbox, and then all that information is like fed back and forth into a server. And so it's not the server broadcasting the data. It's not us sending data to server and the server sorts it out. It's us having that be bounced to server and bounce to person. And through that, it takes an effect latency, connection speed, like upload, download. It takes an effect. Like ISPs, like it's all this stuff that factors into that. Instead of like that being held server side, where you hear the term dedicated server, which is literally all the information being processed and churned out is just in some server farm that Google owns somewhere in like, you know, old ass Colorado or something like that, right? Where they all the data's been fed to there, and then that server then is like, oh, this is what's happening. It bounces it back. What happens in peer to peer is it's your Xbox talking with the other person's Xbox, and then whoever wins that shouting match ends up winning. You know, whatever the like data that's being back and forth. That's essentially. That was a terrible explanation, but that's like the rough idea of how peer to peer works. What happens in this game so often is like, oh my god, how did I die? I was behind that cover. Like I was physically around the corner. I was behind this block. I like got sniped literally through a wall, and like that's all because of how lag, latency, and connection communication is processed in peer to peer. So like I have had legitimate screenshots of me taking a shot at a guy, leaving, and then like half a second later, I just clear through a wall, just my head explodes because the dude sniped me when I first peeked, and I never saw it, and I never saw him shoot, but like there he is just running away and never taking that shot, but my head exploded because like his internet packages, because of how the communication and latency works, were better than mine. It took place before mine, but because my data packages didn't get processed before his, I thought it was scot free and left. Instead, I get sniped in the face. And like, it's very subtle sometimes where it's like, you'll dip behind the cover in like an auto rifle fight, you'll have thrown a grenade and like dipped out of it. Like, you'll notice it in like weird things when you're like moving. And like it happens with like melees too. It's why you see so much trading, honestly, in this game, is literally because of peer to peer. So like when you have like melee punches and like, you know, he punched you before you punched him or vice versa, that is what peer to peer does. And so for me, in my experience of it, like it's just so frustrating where it's like, oh, like I'd love to snipe this guy, and like I get shotgun before you even see anything. I like traded snipes with a guy, which like is fine to me. And like there's all these like weird things that happen with it that like lead to just very frustrating. Like I traded, like I thought I had that
Yeah.
guy beat. Like this feels bad, and like that's kind
I
of like the big thing with it is like it just doesn't add up often to like a fight
It
sometimes.
doesn't, and sometimes it's even like backwards where you have the upper hand and you feel like I shouldn't have got that shot. And like you'll
Yeah.
even like hear
Oh,
Huck say it when he's streaming. You'll be like, I shouldn't have got that. I don't know
yeah.
how I got that kill." And that's peer to peer right there. But
Yeah.
like we need to move forward because we have a lot to
Sorry.
say still. It's
Yeah, no,
okay.
that was a huge
Um,
explanation, but
but yeah, peer to peer, it's horrible. I wish they would like do something with having dedicated servers, at least even just for like comp matches, because like that it feels bad to be playing like a high end game mode and to like die due to like,
it takes a lot of
latency
work
issues.
to like totally like gut and then replace peer to peer with dedicated. It's not just like flipping a switch. There's a
No,
lot of, and I'm not saying
yeah,
that's what you're saying, but like
yeah.
it
Yeah.
would
It would
be
be
great.
nice
I
if that
don't
was
know the
what they were
likelihood.
working towards, is all I
Yeah,
wish I would hear. But
yeah.
another
Anywho,
thing that's super horrible in like the Crucible right now is people's like lack of understanding of the game types and like just not knowing like how to, hold a zone or like
hmm,
move as a group and just things like that, because it's like I understand it's quick play, it's not meant to be taken seriously, but since we're playing all these sweat lords, like you kind of need to take it seriously. And like,
yeah.
when it's like the two of us just queuing up and we're like, oh yeah, like whatever, we'll
Flash your
just like
matches or
have
whatever.
some fun, and it's like we'll have blueberries with us who are just like feeding the other team like kills,
Yeah.
and it's just like so frustrating because like, yeah, I mean, you could argue we could join like, the game chat and be like, hey guys, like let's do this, but at the same time it's like that's not why I want to play like quick
That's
play.
not
i,
why we're
I want to
playing.
just like
Yeah.
go in and like, just play each other. And I think that's my one of my main gripes too, is like the rotator playlist. Like I would like Clash to be available all the time. I don't want to
Hmm.
have to play Classic Mix to hopefully maybe get Clash for a game
Hmm.
type. Like I just want to go play Clash. I wish it was available all the time. I hate that like it's always controlled it's available, because it's
Right.
like I feel like we're just smothered with control, because it's like play control, then Iron Banner comes. Oh, it's more control. And it's like, oh
It's
my
super
gosh.
control. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
So
they've explained it, and I understand why control is there. And I think we've mentioned it before, but it's like it teaches you positioning. You know where a C point
wise.
is. You know where A is.
No
You know where
one
B
learns.
is. I know. I'm just saying what they're saying. Like it makes
Well,
sense
they
to
are
me in
wrong
how they
and
explain
I'm
it.
telling them.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Hang on, please. Just the messenger. But I think that's what's like super frustrating is like Katya is saying, like there is no, there needs to be
there's
like
there's
a
no incentive to learn. There's no incentive to learn other than
right.
maybe you're gonna win the match. But I think like I'm pretty sure we were reading with like the new light stuff that they're gonna change different like bounties and things to teach people about, or triumphs. It was triumphs. Like they're gonna teach people
Sure.
like how to play different game modes. So I
I
think
yeah.
that that will be helpful, because I think again this game just lacks any structure for like newer players or returning players who might not be familiar with a game type. It doesn't give a
Yeah.
lot of direction. It just kind of throws you in there. So I think that will be an interesting
It would be good for
thing.
Crucible to have a little bit more
Yeah.
with how they have it structured.
Um
So
so
new
another thing
players.
that's
Mhm.
super exciting that we love in Crucible is how unbalanced Super's abilities and classes are, which like
Mhm.
we have talked about at length. But just like my main thing is, why can't hunters fly like everyone else? As you just see this like warlock just flying above you.
Floating around for life age.
It's so
It's
annoying.
it's real tough to even enter this discussion too, and like we are very fucking salty both. Really enjoy in main being a tether hunter, and that comes with its own just like what the fuck.
We must be
Um,
masochists. Like, yeah.
Honestly though, if you want to like seriously play Crucible, don't do top tree. I mean, do top tree tether because it teaches you how to be a good fucking player
But
because you
also,
have
if you
no
want to
choice.
cry,
But if you want to be super mad and like never get to live to see your super be useful, do top tree tether. But
when your super
um,
is useful, you will stop to celebrate, and then you will die.
be like, oh my god, I stopped another super. I can't believe I actually suppressed
Yeah.
another super. Wow, I actually tethered 3 people. But you're saying this from the respawn screen as well.
Hmm.
Point being, It comes along with just like the sandbox just being long in the tooth, like pretty stale. Like it just is tough to keep coming back. Like my blade got me again.
Hmm.
Sent a shield ricochet out of like fucking Timbuktu, killed me again. Like, cool. Sneaky daggers just running for days with his sneaky daggers. Like, it
Well,
just
and we
feels
we were talking about this last night. That's like you made a really good point. You're like,
yeah,
having six supers a match is just like
yeah,
rough. But then like we started saying further, if you're a good player and you have on like mods and stuff, you have a chance to get your super like up to 3 times per match.
at
So
least, yeah.
like, that's like, you know, if every person on the other team gets your super 3 times, like that is so many supers
It's
if you
then
really think about it.
it's
Like
low key
it's
mayhem,
yeah, and it's like, that's the kind of players that we're playing against too. It's like we're not
Yeah.
getting people who like just only get their super 1 time. We're getting people who get their super 2 for sure, maybe 3 times.
There's
Like,
like one or two standout players that are able to like play in the way that gives them two
well,
supers, which like
you always get your super at least twice in a
yeah.
game. I get mine once and maybe twice if I'm lucky, but like
Hmm.
because when you get a kill, you get super energy back. So
Well,
like,
and I've learned from the ways of the sweat lords, and I've taken a
yeah,
page out of their
yeah.
book, and I put on like I think it's remote connection, which is a class item mod that specifically gives you super energy for every sniper kill you get. I love
Yeah.
sniping, and so
Yeah.
like
Well,
it
they have them
just
for all the weapons. And so it's like, yeah, if you build
yeah.
that way and are smart, you can do
Shotguns,
that.
fusions, snipers. I think
I think
swords might
it's
be on there
like
too. Grenade
I think
launches is
it's like
there.
most energy
Most special
weapons.
weapons, yeah. Most
Yeah.
energy,
So,
yeah, yeah. So
um but
it's just
we've
as
already
hard because it's stale, and it's just hard to like feel like good. I used my tether against this golden gun. What a fair and balanced fight. When it's like they can just like run through, shoot you, and then they get pulled out of it. It's like why
yeah.
use tether? You know, it just doesn't feel comfortable. And like that's the thing too. Like
Just don't use Tether anymore.
arc web is also strong. Like there's so many strong abilities that like granted hunters have like a one hit melee and a throwing knife, but it's like you have to hit it precision while like a titan can just run at you. You know, just hold forward and win. Like it just is like a rough experience when like
It's
I don't know what the fair middle ground between those two is because it feels like it just hasn't been reached at any
it's
point,
super unbalanced. Yeah.
So,
Which it'll be interesting to see what happens when we get stasis added. And I think like it's safe to
hmm
assume, like we were saying before, that like, with all of the like fragments and whatever those the what is it aspects and fragments that we get
hmm
for stasis, it's probably safe to assume that we'll eventually get those for the other supers. And so
I'm really hoping so.
if
I
we
think it'd be
do,
so
I
good.
think maybe that might be where we see the balancing kind of get better with things, because we might have more
Right.
control over how we can utilize them. So
Well, because then I feel like it befalls more of the pure ability itself. Because then how you want to play it is then once again turned back on us to figure out like, oh, well, I should use this
that
aspect
way,
of
if
this fragment
yeah,
to
if
like
you
make this
like to
combo.
like
Yeah,
be build around like a melee, like then you might be able to do that, because like you might have different like
right.
things that change the way your melee works. Like, just like they're making the grenades all available to like all the classes for stasis. Like,
Right.
maybe someday hunters will have a pulse grenade, just like both the other classes. Like, who knows? Like,
We'll see.
so, but we kind of talked about this, but
Mhm.
classic mix can feel sweatier than comp. I think it
Right.
has to do with map size and also the fact that we're playing with 6 players, and it
Well, the
just
way matchmaking
gets,
works, it's
yeah,
all it's kind of like a
yeah. So
weird
that all
synthesized
kind of
version of our
feeds
issues that we
into
have.
that, yeah. And it's just like rough to uh want to just play the game and feel like you have to work so
Mhm.
hard to concentrate. This is like one of my personal gripes. I know that like no one else really cares about it, but
Mhm.
I'm very mad when they changed it so that heavy was shared so that everybody could pick it up. It ruined my
Yeah.
life, because my like gameplay used to just revolve around find heavy, get it before corners, and then go shoot people with colony. And like now there's no point because everybody can pick up heavy unless we're
Right.
playing comp. And in
Well,
comp, like
it's
you need to be serious about like who's pulling heavy, because we need to get
right.
kills with it. So there's no goofing around. Like, it's
Well, and
rude.
and another thing too is like they lowered the amount of I was gonna call it special heavy that you get in 6v6 playlist too. Comp, I
Yeah.
think it'd still say the same, and then Trials is the same way as well.
Yeah, well,
Um,
because only one person can pull it, so you
Pretty
get your
much,
full
yeah.
clip like that you
So,
have, and the reserves and stuff work. So it's just kind of a bummer. I don't like that. Like,
yeah.
I know it's nice because it puts more heavy on the field, so it feels fairer. But like at the same time, it just
Mhm.
kind of feeds into the mayhem of like, okay, well, we already have all these supers
Right.
happening. Why does everybody now need heavy? Like,
Yeah.
so
It can
it's
be a huge snowball effect. So like I think that's a very good point where it's like it's just another thing that needs like some tweaking and adjusting. So
hmm I'm not even gonna like go into this because if I start on it, I'll never stop. But I will never forget or forgive Bungie for what they did to Nova Warp when they
yeah,
castrated it. Um, and we're just gonna leave it at that
we'll
because
just
we're
leave it at
running
that.
out of time and we need to like fly through these
It
last few
falls
little
it
things
falls back
here.
into just the whole sandbox and the
It's
imbalance of supers and
please
just needing some
ask me
tweaking.
ask me the last time I seriously played Warlock, and I'll tell you it was before that happened, and I quickly changed to a Hunter after that
It was once
because
it
I was
happened, it was
so
a
mad
swap.
about it. So, um,
So
another thing I don't understand is like, why do they not let us have control over ammo for private matches? Because so many times we've been like, let's go have sword fights, and then we're just like, oh, we have to wait until everybody pulls heavy. Like, it's just so dumb. Like, let us have sword fights. I just
mhm.
give me the ammo. Let us have control over like saying like, unlimited ammo or unlimited heavy or whatever. Like it's a private match. It doesn't matter. It's just like we should
Right,
have control over that. So,
right.
um that's just a little
Which
thing
was like
there.
a weird thing because they gave us in D1. Yeah, you could
Yeah.
control how
Yeah.
often special. Well, back then it was special boxes and heavy boxes it spawned. So it just seems silly that you have to do like mayhem and then you have to wait for the timer of the heavy to keep. It's a funny
It's just
thing.
you
So
shouldn't have to find a silly workaround for
more
it, I guess.
agency, more
Just yeah.
agency in these things. But
Um But some things that I feel like have been really good for the Crucible, I like the changes they made to Glory, which is the experience you get from doing comp matches. Um, and I think like it makes it a
excuse me.
lot more approachable for less seasoned players because
Hmm.
they don't feel as intimidated by it because you don't lose glory as excessively as you used to. Like if you lost a match or didn't play
Yeah,
for a week. So I think the fact that they did that was a really
losses. Yeah,
good
losses
call.
don't hurt as bad, and like letting it sit and settle like doesn't hurt as. So if you ever want to jump back in.
Yeah.
It's not so crazy. And then
Yeah.
they kept the win streaks being a lot more manageable too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
no, that's been I think a healthy change. It made comp way better, and also switching it to just survival, brilliant. And then on top of that, adding freelance. Like these have all been very very good additions to
Agreed.
the more competitive side of Destiny PvP.
Yeah. Um and also like them adding the D1 maps back has been like super great because one,
Yeah.
those maps are good size, like we've said
Mhm.
repeatable times, but that's also nostalgia for a lot of people, It's just like fun to play those. So, um, the other thing is pinnacle weapons.
We'll get into your question now, Brett. Just in a second.
Why don't you take this over for a second?
Yeah. So pinnacle weapons. There's for many seasons. There's always been some pursuit weapon to get from each game type. That's true in Strikes with the Vanguard, in Gambit, and in Crucible. Crucible has seen some of the strongest pinnacle weapons come out of it, though, with the exception of like One to Go and that's about it. A lot of questions is also very good, strong too, but Mountaintop, Luna's Hell, Not Forgotten, Revoker, Recluse, like all of these weapons, very strong, and they've all come from Crucible, and like they've been weapons that are infamous now in DT, right? Like you say Recluse, and like I think pretty much everyone's gonna have an idea. It's like been around enough to know that name, and so they've been really. It's the funny dance that they've had to do between like what is an achievable, approachable, good weapon to get, what feels satisfying, like what is a good reward for, right? And I think they've tried to do that dance and they've done it well and very bad at the same time where it's like Mountaintop has fundamentally changed the landscape of both PvE and PvP. It's not a joke. Like, it is still, to this date, one of the strongest and probably most used weapons in both activities. Recluse is also up there as well. Lunas Howl and Not Forgotten, maybe a little bit less so, but especially in their heyday, like those things were absolute monsters when it came to Crucible. So it's just been interesting how these weapons have like fully shaped and changed the landscape of how you do Crucible 2, because it's become like one of those things where it's like, they were the gnawing hungers of their day, which is like a insane thing to say to me. Like those words feel weird coming out of my mouth, but like it's just one of those things where that is just like how strong these weapons are. Where it's like back in the day, like these were how how prevalent and powerful we find 600 RPM now to be. And so I think what's interesting, and we talked about it, I think last week, maybe the week before, but they're changing the pursuit weapon to be like play the game type you want to get the weapon, and then like play the other game types to like get the skins for that weapon. And like it's not exclusionary to this one game mode. So like if you hate PvP, but like Mountaintop is like bees fucking knees. And you're like, fuck, I guess I now have to grind out 2100 glory. Like, woohoo! Like someone can like it doesn't become this like arduous task. It's now, hey, once again, the choice is mine of how to do this thing. So like I think that's a good change that they brought to it. But like it's
I think honestly, like the introduction of like the pinnacle weapons, especially the PvP based ones,
mm,
is what like kind of set the stage for people to do like these crazy carries, and also the like
yeah,
glitched matchmaking, because like I mean we know a lot of people who are like, hey guys, let's try to like get into like comp together and then like
make a
trade
kill
kills,
lobby
and
to
like
like yeah.
yeah, and like people like message you like while you're doing like
Mm-hmm.
PvP and stuff, and they'll be like, oh, like will you do this with me? And like
To just
I've
like
never
cheese the matchmaking.
partaken in that stuff because
Yeah.
I just don't feel good about it, but like at the same time it's like that's the only way for some people to get them, because it's just out of their skill level to
But
like
yeah,
do it
it's
the
not
other
within their
way,
wheelhouse.
and
It's
like
not
they don't
within what
have
they.
the time, they
Mm-hmm.
can't like meet that grind. And so it's like, how I think that what they're doing is a good answer to it. I think it'll be
Yeah.
really interesting to see how it like works, and I hope that it is successful, and that's what we can look forward to, because being able to still have access to a weapon, but then like being inclined to go try a game mode you might not be as excited about because you want an ornament is fine with me. Like that's incentive, but also like not the pressure of like, crap, I gotta go like learn how to do this other game type because like I
Right.
really want this weapon. So
Right. Brad, to quickly address your question, there's still if you have the quest to get these weapons and you're interested in it, I'd say by all means like go whole hog into trying to get them, because they're sticking around, right? They're being sunset in that they aren't being brought up power wise, but like most of the Crucible isn't power oriented anyways. Like it's just trials and it's just Iron Banner. Those are two out of like the 20 different game modes, which is being pruned, thankfully. But like even still, if you have an interest in getting these weapons, get them, because like they're still gonna be around and they're still gonna be worth at least being like, oh cool, like this dude's fucking me over with Mountaintop. Like let me see what this is about. So I think it's still worth an investment and worth trying to get these. I think Revoker is still one of the strongest snipers. Some people choose it because of ammo economy, but point being, like if you have interest in it and it's not beyond light yet, go and get them, because I think they're so.
um kind of the last thing I think we should probably cover here, and then we should probably think
Sure.
about
Yeah, yeah.
um I think like bringing trials back, we kind of like covered this when we did our trials thing again,
Mhm.
but like bringing it back has been really nice because it has something for us to work towards that's like higher end and feels more
Yeah,
dedicated than just like the massacre that like classic mix is. And
yeah,
it feels good, but of course there are a lot of issues with it that we talked about, and I would
hmm
love to go to the lighthouse, so like I really hope they
we're fully
make some
capable of.
changes. Yeah, I hope they make some changes with the cards and things like that to make it a little more
Yeah,
balanced, but we'll see. I really think when we hear about the sandbox update that you know our perspective is probably going to change on a lot of stuff.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But
Yeah.
I don't I don't know.
No, I think what's hard, and forgive us if we did kind of like bleed over, like diagram wise, into like, one topic sounding the same as another topic, because like it's all kind of interwoven. Like one issue feeds into another, back to the first, and like that's just like the beauty and the difficulty of this game is like exactly that. It's part of the philosophy, right? Like this one thing can be brought into this other thing. It's the same thing. One ability might feel good here, but it's just it's the whole enchilada. So these are just kind of like the general points of just like map design, sub point being like the spawns for that, just general metas, and then from there like balancing of supers. Like all of these things feed into what makes the experience both really good and really bad. And so it's exciting. They have October, we'll hear something about it, so it'll be good to know more of how the landscape is going to shift and change. So
it will be exciting, and we are looking forward to October. So,
and that's all we got. I'm replaying the video. Oh my god.
Well, I'm gonna wrap it up then.
Yeah, please.
I think, if you want to hear more of our thoughts about Crucible, please feel free to
catch the streams, catch next Friday. Our DMs are open.
Yeah, so. And I just hope that as we get closer and closer to Beyond Light, this salt will kind of like go down, and we'll be more like excited about the sugar that's incoming, because I like the sugar better than the salt. It's a lot better. So anyways, you guys, thank you for tuning in and listening to us rant about Crucible, but also gush about Destiny, because we love it. The reason we complain so much is because we love it too much. So that's just how it goes. But I hope you'll tune in next week. I don't know what we're going to be talking about, but we'll figure that out. And
please do.
With that, I hope we'll see you around the next time we put the controller down and share another AFK conversation. Bye!
Bye!
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at AFK Combos, and don't forget to follow Mr. Huckleberry on Twitch so that you can catch our live broadcasts and watch past episodes. And if you prefer to hear our lovely voices in your ear, you can now find our podcast on Spotify and Anchor by searching for AFK Conversations. If you'd really like to show your love, consider becoming a supporter through Anchor.